Surrender. The easiest and surest means to achieve the goal is surrender yourself to the great master and become a living dead yourself. Please underline this. So, this is something that you might get in the exam. This feeling of surrender, if cultivated by force or mechanical means, seldom proves to be genuine. It must develop automatically within you without the least strain or pressure upon the mind. If the knowledge of the self is retained, even then it is not true surrender. So, for true surrender to occur, the knowledge of the self should have receded. What remains to be done when you have surrendered yourself in the true sense? Nothing. I believe that in this state, an Abhyasi will be in close touch with reality all the time, and the current of divine effulgence will continue its flow to him without any break. In this way, you can solve your problem of life in the easiest and the most efficacious way in the shortest possible time. Therefore, if one can give away his heart, make a gift of it to the Divine Master, hardly anything more remains to be done. Please underline this. The only thing that is expected is a gift of your heart to the Master. This shall naturally bring him to the state of absorption in absolute reality. The adoption of this simple and easy technique makes the very beginning to be the end of it. What except a tiny heart can be the fittest offering for the achievement of the dearest object of life? So these two, three sentences, you might get a question that the best gift to make is to give away one's heart. One thing more, to effect the surrender of heart is the easiest way. Only an act of will is required. What is required for an act of surrender? An act of will. Besides, the lighter and finer the will, the more effective shall be its working. The adoption of this method is sure to bring in an attitude of renunciation from the very first day. A courageous start is all that is needed for the purpose. So, in order to surrender, all that is required, or to offer the heart, what is required is an act of will. Self surrender is nothing but a state of complete resignation to the will of the master, with total disregard of the self. So, please underline this because you might get a question about self surrender. It's a very hot topic, surrender. A permanent stay in this condition leads to the beginning of the state of negation. When we surrender ourselves to the Great Master, we begin to attract a constant flow of the highest divine force from Him. In this state, a man thinks or does only that which his Master will ordain. He feels nothing in the world to be his belonging, but everything as a sacred trust from the Master, and he is at everything thinking it to be his Master's bidding. His will becomes completely subservient to the will of the Master. So he is talking about what is self-surrender and what are the implications of the self-surrender. Surrender is not an ordinary thing to be achieved easily. See, ಹಿಂದಿನ ಪೇಜಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು in the past page, he said only an act of the will. It's a very easy thing ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ? It's not a easy thing to be achieved. It begins after complete negation of all the senses and faculties, for which we proceed by elementary rules of devotion. We submit to our master, thinking him to be the superhuman being. We love him with devotion and faith and reverence, trying by all means to attract his attention and favor. So there's one clue here. What is the point of surrender in our system? Which point do actually the state of surrender comes in?
Point 9, brother. The point 8, sorry, point 8.
Correct. So point 8 is the state of surrender. So we cannot suddenly jump from first point to the 8th point of self-surrender. So he's actually telling what needs to happen between the first and the 8th point. It begins after complete negation of all the senses and faculties, for which we proceed by elementary rules of devotion. That is our initial journey. It proceeds after complete negation of senses and faculties. So what needs to happen between first and 8th point? The senses and the faculties should come into a dormant state. That is what should happen. Now this next line is also an examination question. Difference between Gurumat and Manumat. Somehow sages have classified disciples under two main heads, the Manumat and Gurumat. The former are those who approach the Guru with some particular worldly end in view, such as relief from misery, desire for wealth, etc. They submit to him only as long as they are hopeful of satisfaction of their desires. When they meet disappointment in this respect, they are off. For such disciples, the question of obedience or submission does not arise. What to say of surrender is also now giving you a few things. First, you get obedience, then you get submission, and then in the end, you get surrender. Obedience, submission, and surrender. This is the sequence in which you actually proceed. Now, this is about Manumat. So, people will come for fulfilling their desires. Gurmat disciples are those who obey the commands of the Master in all matters and try to submit to his will in all possible ways. Submission begins with obedience. When we are deeply impressed by the great powers of the Master of high attainments in spirituality, we feel inwardly inclined to follow his biddings. A beautiful example of surrender is presented to us by Bharata, the son of Dasharatha, when he went to the forest along with the people of Ayodhya to induce his brother Ram to return. In replying to the entreaties of the people, Ram gravely replied that he would be quite willing to return to the capital, provided Bharata asked him to do so. All eyes were turned towards Bharata, who was himself there to induce him to return. But he calmly replied, "It is not for me to command, but only to follow." Therefore, self-surrender has great importance for an abhyasi in his pursuit. So, any questions in this till now? After that, we can proceed further. So, surrender is a pretty commonly asked topic. So, just remember that. And then the difference between the Gurmat and Manumat is also sometimes asked in the exam. Please keep that in mind. And the third thing that you might ask is, what is the best gift? The best gift is the gift of the tiny heart to the great master. So that's the best gift. Obedience, first comes obedience, then submission, then surrender. So I have spoken to Vijay brother today and I have told him to kind of not number it but shuffle the questions around. So you probably will get some more difficult questions going ahead. Okay, to practice. Any questions or anybody wants to add any comments? Everyone was gone quiet. I hope you are there. Except for one video, no other video is there. Surya Narayan brother, what are you doing? Are you preparing well?
Yeah, preparing, sir. Now I am at Shahjahanpur.
Oh, okay. So
I
we
went to
will
Satkul and back to Hyderabad. I was in Shahjahanpur, sir. The reason
okay.
video is not coming. Link is very poor.
When are you back in Bangalore though?
Bangalore, I may not come, sir. I'm going to Hyderabad.
Oh, okay. So I think you've shifted to Hyderabad. No, you told us.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. So Vidya sister, you want to say something? Datesh?
No,
No,
brother,
but
you
about
mentioned
Bharat,
that.
it means he was completely in surrender to Rama, so he told this. So
Exactly. See, when you are surrendered to somebody, you cannot order them.
okay, that's the
You
meaning.
can only go by their diktat. So you will only follow them. So since you have surrendered to Rama, Rama is the leader. So whatever Rama says, Bharata has to follow. That's all.
He cannot order or he cannot
Exactly.
tell him to do what he has to.
Exactly. So whatever Rama says, he has to follow. That is his, what do you say, the duty as a servant. If you've taken Rama to be the master, you are a servant. So the duty of the servant is to just obey the master, not actually dictate to the master.
So thank you, brother. Means in the first part when they had explained, I had not understood the correct meaning. So
Okay. Datesh, anything you want to add?
No, brother. Thank you.
Getting ready? This time better prepared?
Yeah, brother. Yeah, getting prepared.
Brother, a mail not yet came. Any expected this week?
I think it should come. They said first or second. So probably it should be around the corner. So you probably will get either today or tomorrow something. You are in Ghana. You should know. You should tell us, sir.
No, I left Ghana 10 days back only, sir. I
When
don't
are you
say
back to
anything.
Ghana then?
I will be on third night. Fourth, I will be there.
Okay, that's fine. No problem. So shall we continue?
Yeah.
So way to realization, the role of the guide now. So till now we read role of the Abhyasi. Now the role of the guide. Master and his function. Realization cannot be achieved by mere Abhyas for the reason that at higher stages the conditions are such that even if one ascends a little by self-effort, he quickly slips down because of the strong push from above. Hence, so far as our entry into the higher regions are concerned, the help of the master is indispensable. For the practical aspect of sadhana too, it is essential for everyone to take up the practical course of spiritual training, for which we have to seek proper guidance. There have been cases, however, where sages have attained perfection by mere self-effort, by surrendering themselves directly to God. But such examples are rare. It is really a very difficult course and can be followed only by persons especially gifted with uncommon genius. The Guru is the connecting link between God and man. It is through his medium only that we can reach God. He is the only power that can extricate us from the intricacies of the past. So, can you think of any two gurus of recent times who actually achieved the highest by mere self-effort? Can you name any two gurus?
Vivekananda.
No, Vivekananda had Ramakrishna Paramahamsa.
Lalaji?
Who?
Lalaji?
No, Lalaji had his guru.
Paramahamsa Vrata.
Paramahamsa, he achieved the initial stages by himself, by mere self-effort. After that, he had a lot of gurus. He practiced quite a few paths.
Brother, who was the guru of Lalaji?
Kabir?
He was a Muslim. I don't remember the exact name as yet. He was a Muslim person.
Some K from
in the
Hill.
Sufi tradition. Sorry?
Starting from K, brother. Hilby also.
He was a Sufi saint.
The Sufi.
Lalaji's guru was a Sufi saint. That's why Sufis still count Lalaji among their gurus also. So if you go by the Sufi tradition, Lalaji is counted as their guru.
Kabir? Brother Kabir?
Kabir, of course, he achieved the highest, as Babuji says, but I'm not sure about his guru though. Two people I can think of who did not have guru. One is Ramana Maharshi, other one is Arvind Ghosh. Both of them did not have gurus. In fact, Arvind Ghosh realized the self when he was in jail. He was put to jail by the British. And in the jail, he did not have anything to do. He was a very brilliant fellow. So he started reading Bhagavad Gita. And while reading Bhagavad Gita, he actually realized the self. So that is Arvind Ghosh. Then Ramana Maharshi, you know that he did not have a guru. He actually runs away from home. And then he just sits and meditates in Arunachal for 4 years. After that, he reaches the state of self-realization. So he also did not have any guru. Okay. So these two people I know for sure. About the other people that you said, Kabir, I need to check who was his guru. So the guru is the connecting link. Okay, we finished that. It is also necessary that the guide we must select should be of one of the highest caliber and worthy of the task of tearing off the intricacies at a glance with the aid of extraordinary power at his command. It can only be one who has himself attained perfection or complete negation of the self. We must connect ourselves with such a great power by feelings of love and attraction. It does not matter what conception of him we entertain in our mind. We may call him our friend, master, servant, or whatever we may be pleased to choose. But he remains, after all, the guide or the guru, as he is commonly called. The conception of the guru as a mother is, in my opinion, by far the most appropriate and advantageous to the disciple. Very similar sentence is there in another chapter where he says that the conception of a beloved is the best. Now he says that the mother is the best. So keep remembering. So depending on when Babuji wrote the book, he has actually changed some views somewhere. A mother is a very embodiment of love and affection. Only a mother's heart can bear with patience all the troubles and miseries caused to her by her son, thinking all the while of trying to provide her best for the son's comforts and happiness. The same is the position of the real master or guru, who is the spiritual mother of the disciple. As such, the guru is always on the lookout for the spiritual welfare of the child, the disciple. So if you write who is the spiritual mother of the disciple, the answer is guru or the master. It is due to the influence, affectionate attachment of the guru with his disciple that the attention of the great father here is God or the ultimate, with whom his spiritual mother is in so closely connected, is directed towards him, the disciple. So the disciple is the spiritual son, the master is the spiritual mother, and the ultimate or the God is the spiritual father. So just remember this. This is something again you might get in the exam. The function of a mother and a true guru are closely similar. The mother retains a child within her womb for a certain duration. The guru too retains the spiritual child within his mental sphere for a certain duration. During this period, the disciple, like the baby in the womb, sucks energy and gets nourishment from the spiritual waves of the guru's thoughts. So this is something that is done in our system when we come to the 9th point. After the stage of surrender, when you come to the state of insignificance, that is when the guru gives sittings and gives you higher initiation. And after that initiation, he keeps the disciple in his mental womb, where the disciple sucks the energy from the waves of the guru, gets nourishment from the spiritual waves of the guru's thoughts. When the time matures, he is soon born into the brighter world, and then his spiritual life begins. If the disciple enters the mental sphere of the guru, surrendering all his belonging to him, it only takes 7 months to deliver him into the brighter world. But the process is generally delayed for a considerable time because while living in the mental sphere of the guru, the disciple retains the consciousness of his own thoughts and feelings. Thus, we find that the position of the guru is much as the same as the mother. The conception of a guru as a spiritual mother promotes in us feelings of love, reverence, and surrender, which are the main factors of spiritual life. The selection of a worthy guru is no doubt a very difficult job. On the basis of my personal experience, I may give you an easy method of judging. So please underline this. When you happen to come into contact with one, try to understand whether his association promotes in you a feeling of peace and calmness, and silences, for the time being at least, the restless tendencies of the mind, without causing any weight or effect upon it. If it is so, you should conclude that he can be a fit man to lead you on the path. So this is the way to identify the guru. So I'll just repeat. When you happen to come into contact with one, try to understand whether his association promotes in you a feeling of peace and calmness, and silences the, even if it's temporary, the restless tendencies of the mind without causing any weight or effect upon it. Now, this should happen repeatedly. Babuji has not said that here. In other place, he said this should happen repeatedly. So every time you come in contact with this person, this is the effect that you feel. And if that gets repeated a few times, then you can be sure that this person can actually lead you in the spiritual path. There is another difficulty as well. It is that even if such a master is available and accessible, he is not trusted unless he plays some striking miracle. A Raja Yogi endowed with the power of the transmission can no doubt display miracles, but it never takes to do so, since this will be derogatory to his real condition. What is the miracle point? Can anyone tell?
Is it point 6, brother?
No. We read about it when we read towards infinity.
First point itself, Avaduta, they can perform miracles.
Avaduta doesn't mean to say that they can do magic or they can do miracles. No. Avaduta is a totally different state. I've seen some of the people in our own system entering partly into that state and after that gradually coming out of it. Once you know and they are able to identify all these things, no, it's a wonderful thing. You can see people in different states of evolution. So, anybody, anything else can you think of? So this is the homework for tomorrow. Refer to towards infinity and let me know at what point. And our Vijay brother was saying that you people are attempting and you're not getting 100% marks. He was expecting that you will get 100% before you go to the exam. Anyway, we have an example of Christ who displayed miracles all his life. But in spite of all that, he got only 12 disciples, amongst whom there was even one who subsequently brought his crucifixion. That shows that his miracles were of no avail in promoting faith among the people. It was in fact, his noble teachings alone that afterwards secured for him such a large following. It is therefore in our best interest to have our eyes fixed upon reality rather than upon miracles, which are undoubtedly very petty affair and can be displayed by a person of comparatively inferior attainments and talents. This is something that Babuji is also cautioning in terms of Sai Baba. You remember that? The materialization of Sai Baba. So he's kind of just talking about that also. Miracles are no criteria for a saint or a yogi. It is, on the other hand, a deliberate fraud played by dexterous gurus upon weak and credulous people to entrap them in the fold of their gurudom. Before deciding about the final selection, one must be fully convinced of the man's capabilities and merits with regard to his practical attainments on the path. For this, we must have continued association with him to judge things through perception and experience in a practical way. So Babuji says you have to use three things. Use reason, perception, and experience to verify. Reason, perception, and experience. And now he's saying that you should have continued association with him for some period of time. So it's not just based on one experience. You should associate with him for considerable period of time, and then using reason, perception, and experience, you should be able to come to the right conclusion. When he is thus convinced, he must trust him in good faith and rely upon him firmly. This is very essential for the successful pursuit. Once you get the trust, you should not look back. Now, you cannot keep suspecting the person throughout the life. Then you will never develop trust. Okay? So keep that in mind. I have a heart ever ready to help anyone who might be in need of it. I take the task only as a humble servant of humanity. There are and have been masterly gurus who work and have worked as masters in their time, but I prefer to be a servant instead and to work as a servant for the good of the people in general. People do what they are told. People do what you are told and inform me of your day-to-day progress and also of difficulties, if any. I may assure you that you can achieve the goal very easily if you go on persistently with constant remembrance. We read about constant remembrance. Remember? Learned teachers of religion generally induce people to worship gods and deities. He alone who has traveled the path up to the final point can guide successfully. Learned disciples, teachers are more like roadside signposts which tell you where the road leads to. This is all the purpose that they can serve. It is no doubt very strange that one aiming at freedom from materiality should fall upon material forms and grosser conceptions. Now the word Mahatma. The word Mahatma has been defined in several ways, but perhaps without some reasonable basis. But my definition of Mahatma is that he is a non-being being, though somewhat peculiar, is meaningful. It may also be interpreted as to relate to one who has been away from spirituality, but that may not be acceptable to those who aspire for spirituality. So when he says away from spirituality, one who has actually established themselves in the reality have actually crossed the realm of spirituality. So that's what you need to remember. One who has crossed the realm of spirituality and who has attained the reality can be a guru. But that may not be acceptable to people who aspire for spirituality. But if we go deeper to experience the real significance, I feel it will not be understandable. So it is better that I hold you over the topic. We know that it is not royal robes alone that make a real king. Similarly, it is not the form or dress that makes a real saint or a yogi. Outward physical features are not the sure indications of the heart within. Now, these, again, the next part that we are going to read are examination questions. So please mark them. Guru of today might conveniently be classified under the following heads. So there are 5 types of gurus and 5 types of disciples. You can get a question about it. Explain the 5 types of guru. So the quacks. Those who go about advising and conducting the worship of trees, animals, insects, diseases, ghosts, and spirits. They are quacks. Bookworm, book moths. Those who prescribe practices and methods that they have picked up from the books. Practical teachers. Those who prescribe to others that which they do or have done, not taking into account the merits or the demerits thereof. So they have tried something, so they'll advise somebody else about the method that they have tried. So they are practical teachers. Inspired teachers, those who guide the people on the basis of their inner inspirations. Then you have the inspired experienced teachers, those who guide the people on the basis of their practical experience, supported by inner inspirations, higher inspirations. So the last two is what we are looking for. Inspired teachers, experienced inspired teachers. Those are the two that we are looking for. The other three is of no use for spirituality. The quacks, the book moths, and the practical teachers. Okay. Now, in the same way, disciples may be classified as follows. Self-seekers, those who take up the pursuit for the fulfillment of the yearning of their senses. Time passers, those who take it up as a pastime. Kala Vikshepkas. Followers, those who try to follow the Guru's directions. The next two is what we aim to become. Earnest disciples, those who try to follow in the steps of the Guru and try to copy him. Now, it doesn't mean to say copy him at a physical level. Copy him in terms of the qualities that we are supposed to develop for spirituality. Devoted disciples, those who become the focus of the master's attention. They are the one who is actually the most helpful. And there again, many people confuse that they just because they gain access to master repeatedly, go to master's house and spend some time with the master, they feel that they have become devout disciples. No. Devout disciples are those that draw the master's attention at the spiritual level, not at the physical mental level. Remember that. Okay. Unfortunately, today the selection of a proper guru is much neglected, although every religious-minded Hindu believes that it is incumbent upon him to have a guru in order to satisfy his craving for spiritual benefit. Generally, people select anyone for the purpose without any regard to his capabilities or worth. They are induced to do so mostly by persuasion or by miracles displayed by those so-called gurus to attract the ignorant masses. Disciple hunters are not wanting. They are as numerous as the leaves of the tree. For most of them, Gurudom is a very profitable job which can secure enormous income which they cannot otherwise earn. Besides, they command highest respect and personal service from their disciples. The ignorant masses thus fall a ready prey to those self-seeking professionals. A petty miracle or an ordinary display of something charming is enough to attract the hundreds of silly sheep to the fold of their Gurudom. A simple threat of a curse upon one who happens to displease them may bring thousands to abject submission. Now, this is also something that Babuji is repeating from the Reality at Dawn. We had read about it in the Reality at Dawn. Not only this, but in order to ensure the monopoly of their profession, they declare that none but one belonging to the privileged class has the right of being a guru, whether he may be sannyasi or a householder. They claim to be world teachers of religion by right of birth, irrespective of their capabilities and worth. Sannyasin too, you will find these states in multitudes, posing as Mahatmas and professing to be Jagat Gurus, teachers of the world. Is it not a pity to find such professional impostors who are in a shame to the nation and religion, roaming about with complete immunity to cheat and defraud the ignorant people in order to serve their own selfish ends? It is high time for the masses to open their eyes and see what havoc they have been brought by such people. Gurudom, as the monopoly of a privileged class, is an absurdity propagated by the professional gurus to safeguard their personal interests. To just kind of quote here, Shankaracharya writes, only who is born as a Brahmin can actually be a guru. So that is exactly what Babuji is now pointing about, that they are born in a privileged class. The popularly believed principle that a disciple can never break off a sacred connection with his guru under any circumstance is also a cunning device adapted by those chose false gurus to make their position safe and secure, and is nothing but a fraud. The practice of initiating a disciple has been much abused by most of the modern professionals who do not understand its real significance. Their only function as a guru is to breathe a few mystical words into the ear of the disciple at the time of initiation and tell them to follow certain ceremonial practices by the day of worship. Their duty to disciple ends there, and nothing more is to be done for them for the betterment of the disciple except giving him darshan every year and realizing their annual toll and tribute from them. Now, really, a disciple should formally be initiated only when true faith exists in him and divine love takes prime root in him. Please underline that. A disciple should only be initiated formally when true faith exists in him and the divine love takes prime root in his heart. Initiation signifies that the disciple's link has been connected with the supreme power. In that case, spiritual force begins to flow to the disciple automatically according to the absorbing capacity he develops in himself. It depends upon the power and capability of the master to establish a sound connection for which high caliber is needed. A sound connection, once established, shall continue until the disciple secures liberation, which in such cases is not a far-off matter to be obtained after several lives. In fact, if a disciple is initiated in the right sense, as mentioned above by a guru of high caliber, the question of breaking off can never arise. But for the professional gurus who perform mock initiation to serve their purpose, it is a matter of constant anxiety. Therefore, in order to keep a disciple permanently in their grip, they proclaim to be a divine, it is a divine diktat that he shall be courting all the miseries of hell if he ever thought of breaking off from them at any particular time. The ignorant masses accept it as gospel truth, trembling at the very idea of doing anything which might displease their guru. So they always try to put up with all their atrocities in passive submission. I am sure that there is not the slightest suggestion to this effect found in our Shastras. It is only ingenuity on the part of these teachers of religion. I hold it to be the birthright of every man to break off from his guru at any time if he finds that he has made a wrong decision or has misjudged the guru's capability or worth. He is free to seek another guru if at any stage he finds that his guru has not the capacity to take him beyond what he has already acquired. On the other hand, a conscientious guru must himself, under the circumstances, direct his disciple to seek another more advanced and better qualified guru so that the disciple's progress may not in any way suffer. This is the sacred duty of a true selfless guru. If, however, permission to break off sought for by the disciple is denied by the guru on account of his selfish motives, the disciple is at liberty to break off from him at once and seek another. No religion or moral law ever forbids him from doing so. Now, again, these are all things that has been spoken about in detail in the reality at dawn. A little advanced among the class of gurus are considered to be those who teach and preach on the basis of their knowledge of the Shastras and other books, holy books. They have established orders and ashramas where they enjoy a kingly position among their followers. They go out and address large audiences, telling them what to do, what not to do, explaining to them problems concerning Maya, Jiva, and Brahman. People flock to them in thousands to hear their sermons, admitting their high ideals and extensive knowledge and regard them as great Mahatmas or saints. They ask them numerous intricate questions, and if they are able to answer them out of their stock of knowledge of Shastras, their greatness as the Mahatma is established in their mind and they are induced to accept them as gurus. But really, they have thus put to test their learnings and not the real worth. It must be borne in mind that it is not the learning of knowledge or knowledge that makes a man perfect, but it is only realization in the right sense that makes a true yogi or a saint. Now, this is again true or false, you can get. It is just possible that a man who has thus impressed you with outward form, learnings, or eloquence may be at the lowest level as regarding practical attainments. Knowledge, therefore, is no criterion of a true Mahatma or a yogi. Similarly, the real test of a Mahatma or a guru is not his miracles, but experience on the path of the realization. The popular meaning of the Mahatma as a great individual does not appeal to me. I would define as a Mahatma as a most insignificant being. This again is examination question. Or rather, a neglected figure beyond all feelings of greatness, pride, or egoism, dwelling permanently in the state of self-negation. There are some who hold the view that knowledge, being a preliminary stage of realization, is essential and indispensable. I do not agree with them on the ground that knowledge is only an achievement of the mind and realization is an awakening of the soul, and hence far beyond its scope. Therefore, A real teacher is not one who can explain to us the soundness of the religious dogmas or who can prescribe to us the do's and don'ts. What we still stand in need of is a guru. From the guru is a true impulse to effect the awakening of the soul and direct support in the course of further march on the path of realization. This is the role of the guru. So the guru imparts a true impulse to effect the awakening of the soul and provides his direct support in the course of the further journey towards the realization. Such a man we have to seek for if we aim at success. So I'll stop here. Any questions we can take before we go further. But this entire chapter is almost like a repetition from the previous chapter. So I think most of it was there in the chapter Guru in Reality at Dawn. Guru or the guide. So coming up to
Brother, is the definition,
sorry.
brother, the definition for Mahatma, is it a non-being being, or can we write even the insignificant being?
You can write all these things. An insignificant being, a non-being being, or the most neglected peer, or a person who is established permanently in the state of complete self-negation. All the four are correct.
Oh.
Better to write all the four, then you will not miss anything. Anyway, only 2-3 sentences you can write it.
Oh, yes.
Because that is a very commonly asked question about the Mahatma. Who is a Mahatma? Or definition of Babuji about Mahatma. Okay? Any other comment or question?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Anand Kumar, you want to ask something?
No, brother.
Okay. So we shall continue. Now it is evident that while judging a man to be our spiritual guide, we must take into account not his learnings or miracles, but his practical achievements in the field of realization. A man who himself is free can free you from eternal bondage. If your guru is not free from bondage or samskaras, maya and ahankar, so the guru should be free from samskar, maya and ahankar, all the three. It is not possible for him to free you from these bondages. Now, again, transmission is something that is elaborated a bit more here. So let's go through this. By the grace of my master, I shall try to reveal a great secret or mystery which the people in general do not know. It is a great wonder when a great personality like Lord Krishna, Swami Vivekananda, or my master changes the entire course of a man's life. It is absolutely necessary for us to find such a guide who can lift us to higher and higher by his power. This mystery is known as Pranahuti, or the power of transmission. This is a power working through the channels of our mind, pure mind. Pranahuti is effected through the power of will, which is always effective. If a trainer in spirituality exerts his will to mold the mind of the trainee, it will be effective and yield excellent results. So, what is the work of the preceptor he is giving here? If the trainer in spirituality exerts their will to mold the mind of an abhyasi, it will be effective and yield excellent results. That's exactly what is done during the sittings. The willpower of the preceptor is used to mold the mind of the abhyasi. Many Swamijis who start the profession of Gurudom as soon as they put on the orchard-colored uniform, complain that although their disciple listen to them with interest, yet they remain as crooked as the tail of a dog afterwards. The reason is obvious. Either the Swamiji does not exert his will, nor he's got no power. They prescribe many laborious and brain-taxing practices and leave their disciples to their own fates. So two things are necessary in our journey: the will and the power. So the will is used to exercise the power. Neither does the teacher know the result of practices, nor does the disciple care to use his discrimination. The result is grossness and dullness of the intellect on the part of the disciple, and corruption, degradation, and moral turpitude on the part of the guru. Please underline this. So what is happening now? The result is the disciples are becoming more grosser and the gurus grosser and dull in intellect. As far as the disciple is concerned, the guru is developing corruption, degradation, and moral turpitude, who are only conscious of their right to teach and quite unmindful of their duties and responsibilities. Some skeptics may say that it is after all due to the person who wanted to change himself and the master to guru was the cause merely for the namesake. If Lord Krishna had such power, why did he not change the heart of Duryodhana instead of bringing about the battle of Kurukshetra? They may also quote many stories wherein somebody taking a worthless person or even a lifeless object as a guide has become a great saint. But this does not hinder us in trying to find out reality because God's ways are mysterious. Some are deluded by their own thinkings and some are illumined by the divine grace. But what Babaji is now talking about is a general method rather than taking exceptions. When we look at exceptions, that actually colors our mind or leads the mind astray. What Babaji is talking about is a general system. How do you actually identify Guru and work with the Guru? And how does the Guru has to work with the disciple in general? The worthy trainer, by the power of yogic transmission, weakens the lower tendencies in the mind of the trainee and sows the seed of divine light in the innermost core of the heart. This is what the Guru does. I'll just repeat again. The worthy teacher, by the power of yogic transmission, weakens the lower tendencies of the mind of the trainee and sows the seed of the divine light in the innermost core of the heart. In this process, the trainer uses his will force, which has the divine infinite at his backing. In a way, he is conscious of that and he just focuses it through the lens of his goodwill upon the heart of the Abhyasi. Now, please remember, this is exactly how the sitting occurs. So, the Guru is conscious of the divine power at his backing. So, by his goodwill for the disciple, he brings to focus that power onto the heart of the Abhyasi. The trainee may not feel anything in the beginning. The reason is that he is accustomed to feel only through the senses. After some time, however, he may feel the results of such transmission, which are sure in the form of subtle changes in the working of his vital parts and the tendencies of his mind. It is a matter of great regret and pity that this age-old practice of yogic transmission, originated and widely practiced by our ancient sages, had now gone into complete oblivion in the very land of its origin, where today only a few might feel inclined even to believe in it. Some people try to ridicule it or misinterpreting it as nothing but mesmerism or hypnotism. Now this part is again a repetition from the Reality at Dawn Guru chapter. The results of mesmerism or hypnotism are contrary to those of Pranahuti. In these baser arts, the hypnotizer uses his willpower with the backing of a material power. So, as far as a yogi is concerned, the backing is of a divine power. As far as a hypnotizer is concerned, the backing is of a material power. The will of the hypnotized person is weakened and he finds himself dull and heavy-hearted after he wakes up from the hypnotic trance. So, this is the effect of hypnotism. The willpower of the hypnotized, the one who gets hypnotized, becomes weak and the person appears dull and heavy-hearted after the hypnosis is over. A disease may be thus cured or a particular tendency of mind or nature may be suppressed to some extent, depending on the power of the hypnotizer and the submission of the hypnotized. But the effect does not last long. The hypnotic power is developed by some intense mental and physical practices using material things or mental images as objects of concentration. These practices often lead one to mental deformity or insanity, and sometimes even physical deformities may be the result. A successful practice may, however, result at the most in the gain of some material power, which is limited and useful only for the gratification of some kind of the desires as long as it lasts. So this is the effect of the hypnosis. Here, I assure you that spiritual training for the attainment of the higher stages is only possible by the process of yogic transmission and by no other means. Frequent references to this process in the present society of educated people have led certain religious teachers to feel their inefficiency in this respect by explaining to the people that there is nothing peculiar about transmission. It generally happens that When you are in the company of a Mahatma or a Guru or a saint, you are to some extent relieved of your disturbing thoughts and feel comparatively calm for a while. That they claim to be due to the effect of transmission by the Mahatma. Those who offer this explanation mean only to deceive the public with a view to whitewashing their incapacity. Now he is talking about that, what exactly happens. What they interpret as transmission is really an automatic radiation of the pious Paramanus, fine particles from the Mahatma. It affects all those assembled there with the result that calmness prevails to some extent as long as they are there. It is only a natural process, has nothing to do with transmission. It is not only from the Mahatma or a saint that such Paramanus radiate, but also from everyone, whether pious or wicked, saintly or devilish. If you are for some time with an impious or morally degraded person, you find impious thoughts or Paramanus radiating from him and affecting you, with the result that you find your own thoughts flowing in the same channel for the time being. The effect of such radiation remains only for a little while and disappears when you are away from that particular person. It is the reason why religious teachers are often found to be making complaints of the indifference of the people to follow what they preach to them. They say that people, when they go back after hearing their either Upadesha, cast off then and there all they have heard, retaining nothing of it in their mind. I think it is not the people, but the teacher or the Upadeshaka, the preacher, who is really to be blamed for he has not the capacity or power to transmit what he means to preach from the platform. There is no power of transmission backing the preaching. But the power of transmission is a yogic attainment of a very high order by which a yogi can infuse by the will force the yogic energy or the godly effulgence within anyone and remove anything unwanted in him and detrimental to his spiritual progress. He can exercise his power not only on those assembled around him but also on those who are away from him. The power can be utilized in any way at any time. One who has got command over this power can at a glance create temporarily or permanently a condition of the mind which is far ahead of the existing condition of the mind of the Abhyasi and which otherwise will require a lifetime to be achieved. So these are all the effects of the transmission. So there is generally they ask you a question, the difference between mesmerism, hypnotism versus radiation versus transmission. This is a very commonly asked question. It is not a vain assertion, but a bare fact that and may at any time be practically verified by anyone who pleases to do so. Sages have often, through the power of transmission, changed the entire nature of a man by a mere glance. A wonderful example of the great sages like my master, Samarth Guru, Sri Ramchandriji Maharaj of Fatehgarh, Swami Vivekananda and others offer ample proof of it. I have met the heads of many sanस्थाs and to my increasing surprise, I have found transmission sadly missing everywhere. So much so that to most of them it is quite foreign. Swami Vivekananda had no doubt that capacity for such personalities are always rare. Personalities like my revered master are not accidentally born. As a matter of fact, all of us are like beggars at the master's door, having a begging bowl in hand, which the master readily fills. But when the bowl is already filled with things other than spirituality, and the question of getting anything from him does not arise at all. For if anything is poured into it, it will flow out at once. The primary thing for us is therefore to make ourselves empty so that the bowl may be filled up with the master's grace. I shall stop here. Any questions we can take before going on to the last chapter of this book. All of these are repetitions of the chapter Reality at Dawn Guru chapter.
ಬ್ರದರ್ ಇವಾಗ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಇವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅರ್ಜುನ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಯಾವ್ದದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸೇಮ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅರ್ಜುನನ್ ಇಂಪೋಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸೇಮ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಇವರಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಸೇಮ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಅರ್ಜುನನ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಗೆಟಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ವಿನ್ಸ್ಡ್ ವೆರಿ ಈಸಿಲಿ ಅಂತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಪ್ರಾಣಾಹುತಿನ ಯಾವ್ದಕ್ ಬೀಳತ್ತಿದು? ಪ್ರಾಣಾಹುತಿ. ಓಕೆ.
So Arjuna, when Krishna teaches Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, with every shloka that he utters, he gives the condition through transmission to Arjuna.
Okay, okay.
That's what happens.
Thank you.
Is it similar to what Ramakrishna Paramahamsa has done for the Vivekananda?
Yeah, exactly, same thing. So Ramakrishna Paramahamsa also had transmission power.
Same thing.
Yeah. Vivekananda also had transmission power.
Brother,
Brother,
could
can
have
you just
Krishna used
tell
it
once
on
again
Duryodhana as well?
transmission
One
and
minute,
radiation?
one at a time, one at a time. One of you, one at a time. Please go.
Yeah, brother, like ಅವ್ರ ದುರ್ಯೋಧನನ ಮೇಲೆ ಅದು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಿತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಬ್ರದರ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ
Yeah.
ಅವ್ರನ್ನ
Change, remember one thing, we are the sacrosanct owners of our samskaras. Until unless we will a change, masters cannot change our course. Only when we allow the master's will to work on us, then the master's will work. If Duryodhana had agreed to listen to Krishna, his will would have worked. Duryodhana was not even open-minded to just even listen to Krishna. He had such a close mind. So even now, as Abhyasis, if we do not have an open mind to listen to what the master is saying, master's will not work through us. So please remember that. Okay? Suryanarayan brother.
Sir, just once again, that transmission and radiation, that I'm having still not clear in my mind. Can you
Right.
tell once that?
See, remember one thing. In transmission, radiation, you need to be in close contact with a particular person. As long as you are in close proximity with that particular person, the Paramanus will radiate from that particular person and will make you feel calm and peaceful. The moment you are away from that particular person, that effect goes away. So the effect is only temporary. Now the radiation cannot be done for a person who is away. They have to be in close proximity. And radiation cannot be used for future purposes. Transmission can be used anytime, anywhere, either for the future or somebody who is nearby or elsewhere. That's why you're able to give remote sitting. Because transmission still works, whether you give direct face-to-face sitting or remote sitting, it still works. So transmission is not a temporary effect. Transmission causes a more sustained, longer-term effect. Secondly, it can be used on people who are nearby and also away. While radiation cannot be done. Radiation will only work when you are nearby. Thirdly, transmission can also be worked for some time in future, at any time. But transmission cannot be, the radiation cannot be done like that. So these are the three main differences between transmission and radiation.
Okay, thank you.
Brother, one more thing we can add, no? Like radiation, it can be good also, but transmission is a divine one.
Transmission is backed by the divine.
Yeah. But radiation ಒಳ್ಳೆದು ಆಗ್ಬೋದು ಇಲ್ದಿದ್ರೆ depending on the person with whom we are sitting.
Radiation is also backed by a power, not necessarily divine all the time.
Yes.
Although radiation can be backed by divine also.
Yeah, both. It can be both.
So anyway, you can add that also, no problem. In the examination, if they ask this question, you can write this also. Any other thoughts or points to clarify? Any questions?
Brother, temple ಆಗೋದು ಏನು ರೇಡಿಯೇಷನ್
Temple, if the temple is charged by transmission, what you get is transmission.
Okay. It is not radiation.
Babiji went to all temples and charged it. So that anybody who comes there will get at least some benefit from the charge of the idols.
That is also transmission only.
Transmission only. But then there, the transmission is like very passive.
Okay.
See, the idol cannot exercise its will to change you.
Okay.
Right? What did we read about how the sitting works? The sitting works because we use our will to change the condition of the mind of the person, of the devotee. Our willpower. Now, can the idol exercise the willpower?
No.
No. So to that extent, the willpower is not there. They can only passively get the benefit of the transmission coming from the idol. That's all. Okay. Now, if you want to call it a radiation, that is also okay. But ideally, when we use the word transmission, it is always backed by the willpower.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, brother.
So there's a
Thank you.
divine power in the back, and there's a utilization of the willpower, and then utilizing this divine power and the willpower, we are directing that divine power onto the heart of the Abhyasi. This is the transmission.
Thank you, brother.
Any other question? Okay. So if that is the case, I think we can just, these only 3-4 pages are there in this book, the last chapter. Stages on the path of realization. Again, some of the questions can come from this. The highest point of approach or the final goal of life is a state of complete negation, nothingness or zero. I have tried to indicate this in the diagram. The concentric circles drawn around the center roughly denote the different spiritual spheres that we come across during our progress. Beginning our march from the outermost circle, we proceed towards the center, crossing each circle so as to acquire to the next stage. It is an immensely vast expanse. We take up the heart, which is the nucleus for the meditation, and go on with it till the goal is attained. There are 5 points or sub-centers in this heart region, which we pass through in the course of our journey. At each point, the following 4 conditions are felt in this order. So in the first 5 sub-points, in other words, the first 5 points in the Pinda Pradesh. In the 4 stages are a peculiar state of all over awakening within the mind, a consciousness of the divine force pervading all over. A peculiar state all over awakening within the mind, a consciousness of the divine force pervading all over. So the pervading of the divine force, the consciousness of the pervading of the divine force all over. That's the first stage. Then a divine state prevailing everywhere, absorbed in its remembrance. So in the first stage, what is there? It's only divine force pervading all over. In the next stage, not only it is prevailing everywhere, but it's also absorbed in its remembrance. Thirdly, in the third stage, neither a feeling of the divine force nor that of a remembrance, but only a feeling of negation. Fourth stage, everything is gone, no impression about the heart, not even that of existence. So these 4 stages generally are asked as a common question. The 4 stages of conditions at each point. These 4 conditions are expressed in every region and every point. Under the Sahajmarg system of spiritual training, everyone passes through this, though perhaps only the more sensitive ones are able to feel all the conditions in their minutest details. These conditions go on becoming more and more rarefied as we proceed through the various subcenters from the lowest to the highest, which is why we say whatever experiences we gain in the heart region, it gets repeated in the first 5 points of the mind region. When we cross the 5th point, our passage towards the Agna Chakra becomes straight. The condition at this point is very peculiar. From this point, the energy which we consume is diverted towards the low region. During our journey to this point, the major condition which we experience is a feeling of something like a shadowy darkness. This is only a clue to show that we have finally to go beyond light. Its real nature pertains neither to light or darkness, but to a dawn-like color. So Babaji talks about the dawn-like color, which is the real nature, when we go finally beyond the light. So before we reach the Agna Chakra, or at the Agna Chakra, we have a shadowy darkness. It just shows that we have to cross the realm of the light. After that, we cross the realm of the light and to enter into a stage where there is neither darkness or lightness, and it's of a dawn-like color. After crossing the 5th circle or the heart region, now one enters the mind region. The 11 circles of ego in this region are depicted as such. The condition gets subtler and finer as one progresses through them. There are innumerable points and knots in each of these circles. In the ordinary course, it would require a whole lifetime from going from one circle to another. But for the wonderful yogic practice of process of pranahuti. By the time we reach the 16th circle, we are almost free from egoism. Underline. So 5 in the Pinda Pradesh and 11 in the mind region. By the time we reach the 16th circle, we are free from egoism. The condition here has rarely been attained even by the greatest sages. As far as my vision goes, I find none except Kabir who could have secured approach up to his stage, apart from my great master who had attained stages far beyond the human approach, limits of human approach. After this circle, what remains is mere identity still in the gross form. So five circles of Pindu Pradesh, you cross and you enter the Agna Chakra. From the Agna Chakra up to the 13th point, you have 11 rings of ego. That is also crossed. After that, what remains is identity in the gross form. After you have entered into the central region. Before reaching this point, we pass through the Virat region of the Sahasradal Kamalam. It is from this region that the Virat Roop was shown to Arjuna's vision at the time of Battle of Mahabharata. It is the macrocosm. Here we begin to experience to some extent a changeless condition which may be called as Brahmagati or the state of the divine. In the course of this march, we pass through and cross various centers having their own peculiar conditions. After crossing the 7 rings of light of the central region, one enters the vast and the limitless expanse of the infinite and starts swimming in it. Here, the Guru's assistance is still needed since even the subtlest force of the swimmer is an act of his heavy swimming, sets up waves of energy that erect a barrier against progress. That's why in the central region, we don't swim like this. The Guru pulls us passively. We just float on the surface of the 7 rings. That's what happens. The Guru holds our hand and then he pulls us across all the 7 rings. There is no swimming as such. Only the experienced and capable and watchful Guru helps in settling the waves and teaching the swimmer the art of light swimming, which is almost akin to floating, but still not floating, which type of floating does not set up opposing waves. So you are floating, but you are not setting up any opposite waves. The Guru also helps to keep the swimmer from slipping into enjoyment of the state of the light swimming, which will impede further progress and takes him to the further journey. Now we reach the sphere of the dormant center, which also seems to be enclosed by something like a ring, which is the last one. For the sake of expression and experiment, I only made an attempt to enter into this, but a sudden, strong, and forceful push threw me back, though I was able to get a moment's peep into it. This has made me conclude that this is perhaps the last possible limit of human approach. I wish everyone to have access up to it and beyond it if at all possible. The form of gross identity, as I had called it, has all the time been getting finer and subtler up to the last possible limit. So, in other words, from the entry of us into the central region, from that stage where we have gross identity, by the time we come to the near the center, we have very fine identity, refined identity. The form of grosser identity, as I called, has all the time been getting finer and subtler up to the last possible limit. We have now secured a position which is nearmost to the center, and it is the highest possible approach of man. Here, we are in close harmony with the very real condition. When one gets in close touch with the Bhuma, the ultimate or the God and the absolute state, what or where he is beyond his understanding. Complete merging into the center of the Almighty is, however, not possible, since it is essential to maintain a nominal difference between God and man and soul. Such is the extent of the possibility of human achievement, which one should fix his eyes upon from the very beginning, if he wishes to make the greatest progress on the path of realization. Very few among the saints or yogis have ever had any conception of it. In most cases, the farthest approach was up to the second or the third circle. It is unfortunate that even at this very early stage, they are sometimes considered their achievement to be very great. I have given all this only to enable people to judge the so-called great doctors of divinity who are said to have attained perfection and are generally accepted as such by the ignorant masses who judge their worth only by their outward appearance or elegance. Okay, I'll just leave that. This completes the Sajmark philosophy, and I would, as I said earlier on, almost like 70% of the Sajmark philosophy is actually something that has been picked up from many other books. So we have not completed the, what do you say, efficacy of Raja Yoga. So that's something that we have to go through over the next 3 days. So any question? No questions? You want to take a pause? Any comments?
ಬ್ರದರ್ ನನಗೆ ಅದು ಹೇಗೆ ಸಿಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ತುಂಬಾ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಯ್ತು. ಡಿಡ್ ನೋ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಇಟ್. ಹಲೋ ಬ್ರದರ್.
ಹೌದು, ಅದಕ್ಕೇನೆ there are sometimes Abhyasi loses their mind and they start saying that they have got the ability to transmit and they start misguiding other Abhyasis and start transmitting to them. Transmission will only work if the willpower of the master is behind it. In other words, when the master is connected to the divine, the ultimate, when his willpower works through us, transmission works. So a person who's not got that initiation by the master and given permission by the master as preceptors, they cannot transmit.
Yeah.
Although they can radiate.
Oh.
Like other people, they can radiate, but they cannot transmit. Suryanarayan, please go ahead.
Sir, here yes, I once made an attempt to enter into it, but a sudden, strong, forceful push threw me back. That means master is not gone beyond the 16th circle?
Oh, that is not the 16th circle. He's talking about the ring around the center. He
So
tries
we
to
can
enter
go
the
up to
center.
the, only up to that ring only we can go.
Exactly. Babji tried to enter the ring, but he was pushed back by a high force. Now he says
So we
that
can
somebody can actually go beyond that also in due course. Somebody can find a way to go beyond that.
Okay.
So that is still unexplored, to be explored in future. Okay. So we shall just now look through the efficacy of Raja Yoga. We shall start because I am just looking at it. We have about 60 pages. So we have to start somewhere. A word. The book has been written in the state of super consciousness. The facts given in the book are based purely on the anubhava or reading of nature. The readers will best realize it if they go through the actual condition. The personality referred to in the book as working for the change is in existence somewhere in northern India and may be discovered by him who sincerely meditates for it and will be revealed to one who actually intercommunes with him through clairvoyance. So my master. Great men are not accidentally born, but when the time needs them, most of them come, do their job and go. Such is the phenomenon of nature. India, which has always been the home of spirituality, was groping in darkness and had totally forgotten the age-old system of yoga. Again, this is something that is repeated from the reality at dawn. Solid materialism had taken the place of fine spirituality. Dark clouds of ignorance were hovering all over, and the yogic transmission had become quite foreign to the Hindus. At this stage, when spirituality was tottering helplessly, some great personality was urgently needed to see things, set things right for the uplift of mankind. At such a time, the power of nature descended in human form of Samarth Guru, Shri Mahatma Shri Ramchandraji Maharaj at Farrukhabad, UP. This great spiritual genius was born on Basant Panchami, the 2nd of February 1873, in a respectable Kayastha family. His childhood was influenced by his mother, a noble-minded, simple lady who spent most of her time in devotion and worship. It is due to her influence that he received inspiration at a very early age. The incident goes that one day while he was playing with his mates, some divine force aroused in him the feeling that he had not come for the purpose he was engaged in. He had to realize himself and to equip himself for the greater task ahead. The soul was awakened and he set to it in the right earnest. He attained perfection in only 7 months, really an unparalleled example. Since then, he devoted the whole of his life on the cause of spirituality. So this is another question. Many people, they try to confuse you in the exam. That Lalaji achieved liberation in 7 months or he attained perfection in 7 months. The answer is perfection and not liberation. He was an embodiment of moderation, toleration, and devotion, devoid of egoism altogether. With him dawned the new era of yogic transmission, training through transmission, of which he was a master. He could bring a person to perfect perfection simply at a glance. It was he who made it possible that a man who attains perfection in only one life possible, even while leading a family life in a Grihastha ashram. He used to say that the troubles and miseries of the Grihastha life are the penances and sacrifices for spiritual attainment. He had simplified the methods of spiritual training to a great extent and adjusted them to suit the requirements of the time. Among the innumerable researches in the spiritual field, one is given in the chapter entitled Central Region in this book. With such a high caliber and spiritual dignity, he devoted every moment of his life for the uplift of humanity. And after serving the masses for about 36 years, he left his material form at the age of 58 on the 14th of August 1931. He was really a nature's prodigy. The work which he did during his lifetime is beyond conception. Posterity will know his merits in due course. So can anyone see what has happened to the second line, the last third line from the bottom, or the last paragraph, second line, 146 page number. He devoted every moment of his life for the upliftment of humanity. What is the error there? Can anyone see the error there? Anything that you can observe there? Not in the writings of Babuji, but in the way it has been printed.
Should it be a spirituality instead of humanity?
Not in the writings, but the way it has been printed. Nobody observed, everything just jumped over it. Okay, that line, he devoted every moment of his life to the uplift of humanity. At least in my book, the older edition, there is no space between the words at all. I don't know about the latest edition, but in my edition, there is no space between the words. Anyway, let us proceed now. Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga is the old system or science followed by the great rishis and saints to help them in realizing the God. It was prevalent in India long before the time of Ramayana. It was first introduced by a great rishi who lived 72 generations prior to Raj Dasharatha of the Suryavamsh. He devoted much of his time pondering a good deal to find the real method of achieving freedom by which problems of life could be easily solved. He was swimming in the central region, as described in this book, being mostly attached to the center itself. His state was akin to that of the present personality, now working for the change as required by nature. After pondering long over the subject, the great sage at last discovered the method which ultimately developed into what is known as Raja Yoga. So Babuji has intercommunion with this saint of Raja Yoga. And then based on that, he also takes many things from the Raja Yoga saint and then he writes this book. When he was in close touch with the center, he discovered the reality of the world with its cause and force in existence. He found out that the motion or the stir of some power from beneath the center brought about the present world into existence. That stirring thought is in the other words called as the Upadan Karana or the Ksho. At last he arrived at the conclusion that it is the outcome of the power which is similar to or identical with that the thought power of man. Naturally, he deduced that the thought could bring about such results and that its power is unlimited. He then took work from the thought power which fell to our lot and with it he started training. This is the basis of the Raja Yoga or the king of yogas. So in the king of yogas, we take help from the thought power. Why? Because the thought power is closely aligned to the ksho or the stir and it is unlimited in nature. That's why we take the help of the thought power. The kingly thing in us is thought, which ultimately develops, steering us to the goal. So please remember this. Yesterday we spoke about the divine remembrance, constant remembrance. What did we say? A single thought of God gradually develops into constant remembrance. That's what happens. So this is another question. What is the kingly thing in us? The answer is thought, which ultimately develops steering us to our goal. Sages have improved and developed it as their practical experience increased. Thought ultimately takes the form of reality and appears in naked form, so to say. So thoughts get converted into reality. This can all be verified by those people having clairvoyant vision of the hibernate. There may be different methods of teaching through this science, but the governing principle remains the same, which is the utilization of the thought power. With this power of force, we establish a link with God. Improvements have at times been made by great sages to develop it according to the needs of the time. Commentaries have been written on the subject, discussing elaborately the philosophy of yoga. But the underlying thought is the state of vision which a man must develop. Underlying thought is the state of a vision. So please underline this. Things appear in their true perspective and their mystery is revealed to him who rose further in their slender dugout and improves to the utmost. Generally, philosophers have attempted to reach the innermost core of the things through reason and not through vision. Reason in its popular sense may be faculty, quality, and may fail us. But if a thing is seen through the intuitive insight, without the unnecessary medium of the reason, it will be visible in its original form without any error or defect. Now, Babuji gives the difference between reason and vision. Reason can be faulty and may fail us. But if a thing is seen through the intuitive insight, it can never fail or it can never be faulty or defective. Things have undergone such a change that it's very difficult to describe them at their particular steps. The world has been in existence from time immemorial and the correct date cannot be traced out, though certain people have tried to fix it to the Shrishti era. Rotations and revolutions are going on, their actions are multiplying. We must always attempt to find out things after rising above everything. That means after finishing our practice. That is the key point for philosophers to note in order to reach the accuracy of things. Generally, philosophers have attempted things before actually going into the life of practice, as is commonly the case with Western philosophers. I may say that it's not only certain that a philosopher being a philosopher cannot be corrupt or degraded, but there is no possibility of corruption or degradation if he has studied things by leading a practical life. So Babuji is talking about the importance of practical life. Sages in India generally have attempted philosophy by going into it the life of practicality. Never mind if they have not improved to the level depicted in it or required by the philosophy. They have attempted to open up the secrets of existing things as far as they could do with their level of advancement. The outcome is the 6 levels of philosophy in their different hues and colors. We should always attempt the expression of things only when our practice or abhyas is over. That is, when we have reached the ultimate. In short, we should try to understand things when the knots begin to open by themselves, and it's the vision of the central region I have talked about later on. Everything there comes to our judgment from that place shall be correct without the least chance of error. The theory relating to the origin of the human mind, as expounded in this book, stands on quite rational grounds. The primary strength brought into action by the dormant will of God led to the cause of the existence. The still set into motion the latent powers and the process of creation and animation started. The same root force appearing as a stir or stimulation descended into every being in the form of a chief active force. In man, it came to be known as the mind, at the root of which there is the same dormant will, just as it was in the stir. Thus, the human mind is closely identical with the root force or the original stir of which it is a part of. As such, the functions of both are closely similar. Philosophy is a subject not based on reason but based on intuition. It starts not from doubt, as most of the Western philosophers hold, but from curiosity or wonder. A life of practicality undergoing all the experiences depicted therein is therefore essential to arrive at the reality of things. So I think we can stop it here. We can continue from Sahaj Marg tomorrow. Okay. So any questions you can ask. No questions. Everyone is silent. I want to see you people. Just turn on your videos. I know some people, but some of the people I don't know. Can you please turn on your videos? Dattesh, I know. Jyotindra, I know. The Vidya sister, I know. Nanda sister, I'm now seeing for the first time, I think. I don't know whether I have met her. You are muted, sister. Jyotindra, we met last time. Rajesh Kumar, I have met. Okay. Jyoti sister, I have met.
In Mysore, I have met you. Like when you
Okay.
have come many times.
Nanda sister, I have met. Yogita sister also I have met. Anand Kumar Kalaskar, I think I have met you in the exam, no? You come to Crest, Anand Kumar? Have you come to Crest? Yes or no?
My exam at Kana, sir.
Oh, you've been
Assam.
giving your exams at Ghana. Okay. So that's the reason why I might not have seen you in Crest then. Shweta Dakshani, Nagaraj Patil I have met. Raju I have met. Shweta Dakshani, can you turn on your videos?